What if I told you that Prince Harry is no longer a prince in anything but name? That he's not just cut off from royal income, but is seriously thinking about changing his last name from Windsor to Spencer? Yes, you heard that right. The man born into one of the most powerful families on earth is now so far gone from the crown that he's considering turning his back on his royal name entirely. This isn't just a dramatic headline, it's a complete breakdown of a life built on from royal privilege. In just a few years, Harry went on from being one of the most protected people in the world to a man with no official role, no royal security, and now, no guaranteed income. But what pushed him to this breaking point? In May 2025, the British courts handed Harry a brutal legal defeat, shutting down his final request for taxpayer-funded police protection. Instead of accepting it quietly, he exploded with wild accusations, claiming the royal family had conspired against him. But that wasn't the worst of it. Behind the scenes, Harry's California dream life was already falling apart. Failed Netflix shows, canceled contracts, and a growing money crisis were quietly eating away at everything he and Meghan have built. And with his relationships back in the UK fully destroyed, Harry did what no one expected. He looked into his late mother's side of the family for identity. Reports reveal that Harry seriously considered dropping the name Mountbatten Windsor and becoming Harry Spencer, a name that would erase his royal past and tie him to Princess Diana instead of King Charles. So how did it all come down to this? This story isn't about a prince losing money. It's about a man losing his identity, his family, his support system, and maybe even his grip on reality. Let's break it all down, piece by piece, because what's happening to Prince Harry is something the royal family and the world may never recover from. There was a time when Prince Harry didn't have to worry about a thing. Wherever he went, the British government had him covered. Armed guards, private convoys, Secret Service sweeps. He didn't just feel safe, he was untouchable. Entire city blocks were shut down for him. Air traffic got rerouted. Intelligence teams coordinated across borders. All of this came standard with being a senior royal, and Harry thought it would last forever. But in February 2020, that illusion shattered. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties, they believed they could keep the perks while living a new life in California. They wanted independence, without sacrifice. But they missed one big truth. Royal protection was a job benefit, not a birthright. So the RAVEC committee stepped in. They ruled that Harry would no longer get automatic taxpayer-funded security. From that point on, he'd be treated like anyone else. But any future protection would depend on specific threats, not his royal title. Just like that, Harry was on his own. No more guaranteed guards, no more royal privilege. For the first time, he had to manage his safety and the cost of it, all by himself. The golden cage had opened, but Harry wasn't ready for what life outside really looked like. By the time May 2025 rolled around, Prince Harry had been fighting for years to get his royal security back. He wasn't just asking, he was taking the British government to court. He believed he was still entitled to protection, even though he'd stepped away from royal duties. But the courts didn't see it that way. On May 2nd, 3 top judges handed down a decision that would crush any hope Harry had left. The Court of Appeal didn't just reject his case, they completely tore it apart. Lord Justice Bean, Lady Justice McCord, and Lord Justice Singh ruled unanimously. Harry's legal arguments were weak. His claims of unfair treatment had no real proof, and his belief that he deserved special protection just because of who he was, that didn't hold up under the law. The court made it clear, Harry wasn't being treated unfairly. In fact, he'd already received more consideration than the average person. But since he was no longer a working royal, he didn't qualify for automatic taxpayer-funded protection. The judges said his reduced threat level and current lifestyle didn't justify it. This wasn't a close call or a technicality, it was a complete and final defeat. But what made it worse was how public it all became. The ruling showed the world that Harry's 5-year legal fight had been built on pride, not facts. His expensive lawyers had thrown everything they could at the case, but the court wasn't moved. They said he had no right to special treatment and no strong evidence of danger. It was a harsh reality check. For the first time, the British legal system told Harry what the royal family had been hinting at for years. He had chosen a new life, and now he had to live with the consequences. But instead of stepping back and taking time to process, Harry went in a totally different direction. Most people, after losing a major court battle, would lay low, but Prince Harry, he went straight to the media. Just hours after the court shut down his case, Harry sat down with the BBC and dropped bombshell after bombshell. Instead of accepting the verdict, he accused the royal family of plotting against him. Harry claimed someone inside the palace had influenced the security committee. He said the royal household was trying to strip his protection on purpose, just to make him vulnerable. And even more shocking, he hinted that his own family wanted to endanger his life. He pointed fingers at King Charles, at Prince William, at the entire system. It wasn't just emotional, it was wild. To most people, the court's ruling was fair and final, but Harry saw a conspiracy. He couldn't accept the loss, so he blamed everyone: the crown, the government, even his own blood. The BBC interview was messy. He jumped between accusations and complaints, said no one would answer his calls, claimed the whole system was broken. It wasn't just a reaction, it was a meltdown. And just like that, Harry's legal defeat turned into something bigger, a full-on war against the royal family. After the BBC interview, one thing became clear. Harry wasn't just angry, he was disconnected from reality. The court documents made it crystal clear. Harry's legal team had been given every chance to prove his case. The judges said he was treated fairly, maybe even more fairly than most. He had been asked to present real evidence of threats and failed to do so. Yet Harry kept insisting that the system was out to get him. He claimed his royal title made him a bigger target than ever, that the palace was secretly working against him, that he was punished just for trying to protect his family. But none of that lined up with the facts. The judges ruled that Harry's situation didn't meet the standard for government-funded protection. They said his fear was based on feelings, not actual threats. In simple terms, they called it what it was: entitlement. Harry refused to back down. Instead of accepting that his royal privileges had limits, he told the world he was being hunted, that his family had turned into enemies, that even the security committee had been compromised. To outsiders, it sounded like paranoia. To Harry, it was the truth. He couldn't see that the court wasn't attacking him. It was doing its job. He didn't see a fair decision. He saw betrayal. And that mindset showed just how far he had drifted from reality. Instead of adjusting to life outside the palace, Harry was spinning deeper into blame and suspicion. He wasn't just fighting for security anymore. He was fighting ghosts. While Harry battled the courts, another crisis was growing back home in California: his finances. When Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal life, they signed huge deals with Netflix and Spotify. At first, it seemed like their future was secure, but 5 years later, the numbers told a different story. Netflix's $100 million deal was falling apart. Their first documentary drew big views, but their follow-ups flopped. Apollo documentary barely made a splash. Meghan's cooking show struggled to gain interest. And behind the scenes, Netflix started rethinking everything. Reports said CEO Ted Sarandos, once a big fan, was ready to cut Harry from future deals. Meghan still had brand value, but Harry? Not so much. Spotify had already pulled the plug in 2023 after minimal content. Their Archwell Foundation was losing donors, and their Montecito lifestyle, mansions, private security, staff, was draining their bank accounts. They were burning through money fast. What Harry and Meghan didn't expect was how quickly the world would lose interest. Without royal duties or fresh content, their brand was fading, and with it, their income. Suddenly, the couple who once seemed unstoppable was facing serious financial trouble and running out of options. Right as his court battle collapsed and the money started drying up, Prince Harry changed his tone. Suddenly, the man who had spent years calling out the royal family was asking for peace. In an emotional interview, Harry said, "Life is precious." He talked about wanting to reconnect with his father. He said he didn't know how much time King Charles had left. For a moment, it sounded like he was ready to make things right. But the timing raised eyebrows. Just as Netflix considered dropping him, just as his projects were flopping, just as his California dream started falling apart, Harry decided it was time to reconcile. Many fans saw it as not as heartfelt, but as desperate. After all, this was the same man who had written a tell-all book exposing family secrets, the same man who accused his relatives of racism, betrayal, and cruelty. And now, after everything, he was hoping to reconnect? It felt less like healing and more like survival. Reports say King Charles didn't respond. No angry statement, no public reply, just silence. And maybe that was the answer. After years of public attacks and private drama, the king may have finally shut the door, not out of hate, but out of exhaustion. Harry's plea might have come too late. His father, now battling serious health issues, had already given millions to help Harry and Meghan start over. He had walked Meghan down the aisle. He tried to stay involved, but each time, Harry responded with more blame. Now, when Harry finally asked for peace, there was no one left picking up the phone. By the time Prince Harry reached out for peace, the royal family had already moved on, and the damage was beyond repair. His relationship with King Charles was barely hanging on, but the real split? That was with Prince William, Kate Middleton, and Queen Camilla. According to insiders, the three had formed a united front behind the scenes. They weren't just distancing themselves from Harry, they were protecting the crown from him. And it wasn't just about old arguments or family tension, it was about trust. Over the years, Harry had gone from royal rebel to full-blown whistleblower. He exposed private conversations. He accused family members of racism and cruelty. He used interviews, podcasts, and his book to tell his side of the story, and each time, more personal details came out. The royals stayed mostly silent, but that silence didn't mean they weren't paying attention. Sources close to the palace say they now saw Harry not just as hurt, but as dangerous. Even King Charles, who once walked Meghan down the aisle, who helped fund their new life, who tried again and again to stay connected, had finally gone quiet. It wasn't about revenge, it was about survival. The royal family has always protected its image, and Harry, in their eyes, had become a threat to that image. Harry saw silence as betrayal. He claimed his family was punishing him, ignoring him, even putting him in danger. But others saw it differently. They saw a father, a brother, and a stepmother drawing a line, not to hurt Harry, but to stop being hurt by him. Years of interviews, documentaries, and drama had burned every bridge. And now, when Harry needed those connections most, they were gone. As Harry drifted further from his royal roots, a strange comparison began to surface, one that no one could have seen coming. He was starting to look a lot like Thomas Markle. Yes, Meghan's estranged father, the man she had cut off years ago. The man who had gone to the press, begged for attention, and claimed he just wanted to talk to his daughter. The same man Harry once viewed as toxic and desperate. Now, Harry was the one asking for calls that never came, the one doing interviews, saying his family was ignoring him, pleading for reconciliation while also making public accusations. Sounds familiar? Royal experts couldn't ignore the irony. Just like Thomas Markle, Harry had become the outsider looking in. Both had airy, dirty laundry, both had blamed their families, and both had watched, helplessly, as the people they loved stopped answering the phone. It was never supposed to be this way. Harry used to be one of the most beloved royals. A war veteran, a modern prince, the fun one, the human one. But over time, his story shifted from royal rebel to family outcast, and now, the very behavior he once condemned in others was becoming his own. There's a painful truth here. Sometimes, in trying to escape a pattern, we become the thing we feared most. Harry wanted to break the cycle. Instead, he might have repeated it. As if things couldn't get more shocking, Prince Harry reportedly considered doing something no one expected, changing his last name. Not just any name, he thought about dropping Mountbatten Windsor and becoming Harry Spencer. That's right, in the middle of his family feud, court losses, and financial struggles, Harry looked to his mother's side of the family, Princess Diana's legacy, and thought about cutting off the Windsor name completely. According to reports, Harry even spoke to his uncle, Earl Spencer, about the idea. He wanted to honor his mother and distance himself from the royal institution that he now felt had turned its back on him. But his uncle reportedly advised against it, warning that the legal complications could be messy, especially for his children, Archie and Lilibet, who also carry the Windsor name. Still, just the fact that Harry seriously considered it says everything. This wasn't about branding or publicity, it was about identity. Harry was so done with the royal family, so angry, so cut off, that he wanted a fresh start, a new name, a new legacy, one that had nothing to do with the monarchy and everything to do with Diana. The name Spencer carried deep meaning. It represented love, tragedy, independence. To Harry, it meant honoring the only member of his family who he ever felt never let him down. But if he had gone through with it, it would have been more than symbolic. It would have been a total break. Changing his name would have sent a loud, final message that Harry was no longer part of the House of Windsor, that he had chosen his mother's side forever. In the end, he didn't do it, at least not yet. But just thinking about it shows how far he's gone and how much pain he's still carrying. Now, with family ties broken, public support fading, and income falling apart, what's next for Harry? Prince Harry's fall wasn't sudden. It was a slow, painful unraveling. One by one, the things that once defined him disappeared. First, the royal protection. Then, the royal role. Next, the money, the respect, the support system. And now, even his last name is in question. This isn't just a man stepping away from the crown. It's a man trying to rebuild an identity from the ashes of everything he left behind. Harry once believed he could have it all. Freedom, fame, fortune, and family. But in chasing that dream, he lost more than he ever expected. His legal battles failed, his financial deals fell apart, and the people who once stood by him, his father, his brother, even the British public, began to turn away. Now he finds himself in a strange place. Not quite royal, not quite Hollywood, not quite free. He says he wants peace, but his actions keep stirring more chaos. He reaches out, but no one answers. He considers changing his name, but can you ever really escape who you are? This story isn't over, not by a long shot, but if there's one thing we know about Prince Harry, it's that he doesn't back down quietly. Whether it's another media bombshell, a surprise return, or something even more shocking, you can be sure of one thing. This prince isn't finished writing his story, but the next chapter might be his most unpredictable one yet.